Although France, Britain, Russia, Germany, and Austria-Hungary are frequently cited as the principal combatants of the First World War, a total of 32 nations fought in the conflict. Here are some of the lesser-known contributors around the world that took part in the trenches.
Don't just watch history unfold, discover it. Join the Relic Archives community by subscribing. It's free and will unravel more awesome content. And for those who stick to the end of today's video, an unbelievable relic awaits.
Serbia and Montenegro. Both Serbia and Montenegro emerged from the First and Second Balkan Wars politically and militarily exhausted. Their armies, though experienced, were under-equipped and strained by heavy casualties and material losses sustained during those conflicts. Nevertheless, national spirit and morale was high in both countries. They fought heavily battles, but notifiable are battles of Mountain Seir, Kolubara, and Morkovac battle. Serbian ally Montenegro placed 2/3 of its army under Serbian high command on 6th August 1914, with the remaining third defended native terrain under Montenegrin officers. They had crucial part in the rearguard Battle of Mokovac, 6th to 7th January 1916, which bought precious days for retreating Serbian forces during Third Central Powers offensive. The crowning moment for the two kingdoms was the Battle of Seir, 1524 August 1914, the first Allied victory of World War I and a stunning upset over Austria-Hungary military might. The great strategical victory under General Stepa Stepanović marked the first Allied victory over the Central Powers in the First World War. Serbia also successfully repealed the second invasion of Austria-Hungary at Mountain Kolubara. In December 1914 was achieved a remarkable victory, where the Serbian army, under the brilliant command of Field Marshal Živojin Mišić, not only repelled the Austro-Hungarian second invasion, but completely pushed them out of Serbia for the second time. It was a significant morale boost for the Allies and a huge embarrassment for the Central Powers. However, in October 1915, a combined force of German, Austro-Hungarian, and Bulgarian troops launched a devastating coordinated offensive from multiple directions. This new invasion proved too powerful for the exhausted Serbian army. This led to the harrowing Great Retreat, or Albanian Golgotha, where the Serbian army and a large portion of the civilian population endured a brutal march through the treacherous mountains of Albania in the harsh winter. This period is one of the most tragic and heroic episodes in Serbian history, with immense losses due to combat, starvation, and exposure. Despite the immense suffering, the core of the Serbian army survived and was eventually evacuated by Allied ships, later rejoining the fight on the Salonika front. The surviving Serbian troops and government evacuated to the Greek island of Corfu, where they were regrouped, re-equipped, and retrained with Allied support. The reconstituted Serbian army joined the Salonika front and played a crucial role in shortening the war. In September 15, 1918, under the command of General Louis-Franchet d'Espèrey, the Allied forces launched a major offensive to break through the Macedonian front. The Serbian army was at the forefront of this offensive, leading the charge against the Central Powers' defenses. Their forces, 1st and 2nd Serbian Army, broke through the Bulgarian lines and advanced rapidly. That was the first time that one of the warring sides managed to collapse enemy front in the war. In 45 days, they crossed 310 miles, 500 kilometers, under combat liberating capital, Belgrade, on November 1st. The successful offensive forced Bulgaria to capitulate on September 30th, 1918, and withdrawal of Austrian and German forces from all Serbian territory by the end of October. Cost in human lives for Serbia was terrifying. From some 420,000 men mobilized, it suffered around 265,000 military deaths, 25% of its mobilized forces, plus civilian losses numbering in the hundreds of thousands, proportionally the highest among all combatants in World War I. Belgium. Unlike her neighbors, the Netherlands and Luxembourg, Belgium bore the brunt of Germany's attempt to hammer France through the lowlands. The Netherlands was powerful enough at the time to enforce its neutrality, and Luxembourg was small enough that its surrender was honored and wealthy enough that its sovereignty was restored in 1918. But Belgium's neutrality was ignored by German troops, so much so that the Belgian campaign is popularly known as the Rape of Belgium. Country is best known for slowing down German advances enough that the major allies could regroup and refocus their efforts at repelling German attacks. Without Belgium, Paris might have fallen, a point the Germans took pains to remember in World War II. Greece. Greece had no desire to become embroiled in yet another fight and declared neutrality in 1914. However, Bulgaria's decision to join the Central Powers on September 21, 1915, compelled the Greek Prime Minister Eleftherios Venizelos to request Allied help to defend his country's northern border. Presence of these foreign troops on Greek soil was not universally popular among the local population. The country's government soon split into pro-Allied and pro-neutral factions. But defeat of Serbia by an Austro-Bulgarian army left Greece with little choice but to join the Western powers, which it officially did on June 28, 1917. This did not happen without a much of turmoil inside the state. The first large-scale deployment of Greek forces was in May 1918 at the Battle of Skra-di-Legin. By the end of the war, 10 Greek divisions were fighting on what became known as the Macedonian Front, or Salonika Front. After the Allied victory, Greece was promised a slice of the dismembered Ottoman Empire as a reward, but most of the former Ottoman territory ceded to Greece by the peace negotiations was recaptured by the new Turkish Republic during the Greco-Turkish War, 1919-22. Newfoundland and Labrador. In 1914, the sparsely populated region on the extreme northeastern tip of North America had no armed forces to speak of. Nevertheless, following UK declaration of war on August 4th, a regiment was immediately recruited for service in the British Army. Known as the Blue Puttees, thanks to their soldiers' distinctive legwear, the Newfoundland Regiment took part in the Gallipoli Campaign of 1915 before being transferred to the Western Front. The following year, the 800-strong regiment was virtually annihilated during the Battle of the Somme, with only 68 men surviving the bloody assault on Beaumont Hamel. Yet the regiment was reinforced and continued to serve with distinction. In 1917, the Newfoundland Regiment received the title Royal in recognition of its service at Ypres and Cambrai, San Marino, and Andorra. When Italy joined the Allies and declared war on Austria-Hungary on May 23, 1915, it set out to bully the tiny republic into accepting an occupying force of carabinieri. By the spring of 1915, San Marino caved to Italian pressure and finally declared war on Austria-Hungary. Many served with distinction on the Austro-Italian front, while others volunteered to work in the field hospitals run by the International Red Cross. Andorra joined the Allies by default. Country's curious constitution, whereby the French president is also co-ruler of Andorra, along with the Spanish Bishop of Urgell. Thus, when France went to war in 1914, so did Andorra. In truth, tiny Pyrenean principality would not send the 10 men of her part-time ceremonial army to any front. There is a persistent story that Andorra remained officially at war with Germany because no representatives from the country were invited to the 1919 Paris Peace Conference. Whatever the truth of this tale, Andorra was the only European state to suffer no casualties during World War I. South Africa. The Union of South Africa, under Prime Minister Louis Botha, actively participated in the war effort. South African forces under John Smuts participated in the campaign against German forces in East Africa. They invaded German Southwest Africa, now Namibia, and a military expedition was sent to German East Africa, now Tanzania. Additionally, South African troops, including the 1st South African Brigade, were deployed to Europe and fought on the Western Front, notably at the Battle of Delville Wood. India. The Indian Army, also called the British Indian Army, was involved in World War I as part of the British Empire. More than 1 million Indian troops served overseas, of whom more than 60,000 died during the war. On the outbreak of war, the Indian Army had 150,000 trained men, and the Indian government offered the services of 2 cavalry and 2 infantry divisions for service overseas. The force known as Indian Expeditionary Force A was under the command of General Sir James Wilcox. Force A was attached to the British Expeditionary Force, and the 4 divisions were formed into 2 Army Corps, an Infantry Indian Corps and the Indian Cavalry Corps. Upon arrival in Marseille on 30th September 1914, only 6 weeks after the declaration of war, they were moved to the Ypres Salient and took part in the Battle of La Bassée in October 1914. In March 1915, the 7th Meerut Division was chosen to lead the assault in the Battle of Neuve-Chapelle. Indian divisions were also sent to Egypt, Gallipoli, German East Africa, and nearly 700,000 served in Mesopotamia against the Ottoman Empire. While some divisions were sent overseas, others had to remain in India guarding the northwest frontier and on internal security and training duties. Brazil. Quite early on, the fighting in Europe caused severe disruption to Brazil's global trade. For example, the United Kingdom stopped importing coffee from South America to free up the British merchant vessels to transport war materiel. But it was Germany's decision to revive unrestricted submarine warfare that led to hostilities. The torpedoing of 4 Brazilian ships by German U-boats prompted the national government to declare war on the Central Powers on October 26, 1917. And while the country's involvement in the fighting on land was limited, only an advance force of officers, pilots, and medical staff reached the Western Front before the armistice. Brazil's Navy played an important role in the battle against German submarines. From August 1918, the Divisão Naval em Operações de Guerra, DNOG, patrolled the Atlantic between São Paulo and Dakar in Senegal, which was then part of French West Africa. Brazil's fleet is credited with sinking at least 1 enemy U-boat. Nepal. Though this remote Himalayan kingdom never made a formal declaration of war on the Central Powers, more than 90,000 Nepalese Gurkhas served in the British Army during World War I. The United Kingdom's recruitment of volunteers from the region has been a long-standing tradition, dating back to the end of the Anglo-Nepalese War, 1816, and between 1914 and 1918 Gurkha regiments served with distinction in Flanders, Gallipoli, Palestine, Mesopotamia, and the Persian theater. In addition to the Gurkha volunteers, the government in Kathmandu sent 7,000 men from the National Army to assist the British, and by the time of the armistice, around 14,000 Nepalese soldiers were stationed in British India.
Thanks for watching till the end. Here's a relic revealed. The license plate on Archduke Franz Ferdinand's car was A3118. Many interpret this as A for armistice, 11/11/18, the exact date World War I ended. A chilling coincidence from relic archives.